Welcome
This is an awesome podcast. This is one of my favorite ones.
to the Jeff
It's a lot of whiskey, Jeff.
Macolino
Jeff Macolino. Macolino.
podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. You might be watching the video of this on YouTube. I just do a quick intro before I bring on the guest. Today's guest is Michaela Vybohova. She is a model. She is an entrepreneur. She is funny. She refers to herself as an unemployed dating coach. So we talk a little bit about that as well. She's recently gotten into acting as well. She's founded Michaela V, which is a footwear line. And also just recently, she launched a protein bar called Model Munch. So I'm doing this one on YouTube as well. Obviously, you can listen to the audio anywhere. Make sure you subscribe, follow wherever you're listening. Do me that favor, because I'm doing you this favor of giving you the video podcast with myself and Michaela. Sit back and enjoy. All right, everybody. I am very pleased to welcome Michaela Vybohova to the Jeff Macolino podcast.
Amazing.
Did I get it?
Yes, I'm sorry to cut you off. I get so excited. That was very impressive.
That's I pride myself in getting names right, and I don't do it very often. So
Amazing.
I'll take the win when I can get one. How are you doing on this? I was going to say lovely day, but it maybe not so lovely.
Yeah, we're doing quite all right. You know, it's a little grayish, but yeah, I'm hanging in here.
Yeah, well, you've got a nice view. It looks like, at the very least, of the grayish. I mean,
Yes, me and my neighbors, we're very close. I know everything about them.
oh yeah, is it one of those? I've never lived in New York, but the TV shows, it always makes that a thing, right? Where you can see your neighbor across the way. So that is real.
Yes, that is absolutely real. So my neighbor over there in that building on about 16th floor recently broke up with his girlfriend. She just moved out. I have no idea what his name is. But I'm falling asleep. I feel part of their story. But yeah, his apartment has been empty for a while. He needs to refurnish. She had horrible taste, so she took it all. So
Well, so it's a blank slate. That's great.
yes.
That's I'm in the process of moving. So I kind of have that same thing where I'm like, I'm not tied to any of this stuff. I could just burn it all. Or
That's amazing. I'm actually moving myself
yeah, or to a warmer climate, correct?
to a warmer climate, indeed.
So I'll admit, see, now normally I say I try not to do too much prep on my guest,
right.
because I don't want to dive in, but I know the backstory, but I feel like I owe it to the audience to start off with, those who are listening only to the audio version of this podcast. You're depriving yourself, but you're a model, and I know how you got started, but I guess it's only fair to my audience, who may not be familiar with you, to tell them the story, even though I have heard it. I have done this background.
So I've started in modeling by complete accident. Oh God, it feels like a lifetime ago. My best friend at the time, she wanted to go on a modeling search contest, and I kind of thought it was not for me. I already had a job in a mall. I worked as a security. I know. My job was to work I worked it for one store, and my job was to watch if people steal. And I did indeed get fired because yes, I saw when people steal, but I was too intimidated to do anything about it.
That's understandable.
So I didn't want to be the snitch. It's a small town. we know what happens to snitches.
Yeah.
So my best friend just talked me into just coming into the modeling search with her, and it's like, you know what? I lost my job. I might as well. I have nothing better to do right now. So yeah, and the rest is history.
What a blessing losing that job was. Now, were you when this happened? Were you in America or Romania at the time?
I was in Slovakia.
Slovakia. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, but we never know. I could have been a CEO of the mall right now. I never know. I would have worked my way up.
but yeah, if you had only beat up those people who had stolen things, then
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, it doesn't matter that I got fired for the absolute bottom level position you can have.
Hey, I remember hearing at when I was looking for jobs in high school, somebody's like, "Oh, I can get you this job at the mall," and it was basically doing security, and I'm like, "Oh, so I get to like tackle people who steal stuff?" Like, "Oh no, you can't touch them. You can just say, excuse me, can you please put that back?" And I'm like, "That sounds horrible. Like, I'm not going to do that." So I work construction instead, which is probably a better choice.
Yeah.
But a happy accident. You got into modeling. How long before you came over to America? I assume that was kind of because of modeling.
Yes, that was because of modeling. So after I've entered the modeling search contest, I didn't win. But I did end up getting a modeling agency contract from it. Once they saw me, and my first contract was in Istanbul, Turkey. There's not much industry in Slovakia. There's certain managers that will get you contracts overseas, and it's the wild, wild west. Like, I cannot, God bless my parents for having the faith and the confidence, but I think looking at it now, like if I was a parent, oh my, I think I would have a harder time letting my kid go.
Yeah, because you were what, 16?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a rough. You got to have a lot of faith in where whoever is kind of stewarding over you at that point, especially going to a foreign country.
Yeah, faith, naivete.
Yeah. The internet was a lot slower back then. I mean,
yeah, I was the lucky few that had both.
but at least in your case it worked. So we'll lean towards the positive. I'm sure there's some horror stories as well, but now when you since you've come to America, obviously you've been very successful in modeling, but also you didn't stop with that. You're an entrepreneur. You started, I think it was a few years ago, correct, with Michaela V shoes?
Yes.
And what now I'm forgetting whether I'm imagining an article I read about you talking about the shoes and how they can improve a women's sex life.
Yeah. I'll stand by
was that real, or did I imagine that?
Yes, no, that was real.
I was going to say that's really creepy if that was. Okay, thank goodness.
That was real, and it was a little bit taken out of context, but I stand behind it 1000%, because when it comes to, I don't know if you ever seen a girl in the process of when she's buying shoes, and if she puts the shoes she loves on, like our confidence goes to a whole another level, and we feel frisky, we feel sassy, and we just walk different.
Oh yeah, no, you're absolutely. I mean, I think that's universal. It's confidence,
yeah, we just feel sexier.
Yeah,
and like the right pair of stilettos, sometimes like when is the frisky time is the only thing you keep on.
Dad.
Or the last thing you take off.
Either or.
Yeah,
but,
so can't speak for everyone, but.
Well, and it might not be shoes with everyone, but it is, confidence is absolutely the number one thing.
What is it for you?
Well, I just know for a fact, well, for me, it's alcohol, because alcohol makes me confident.
All right.
So that's always my my joke is how I talk about I can't do anything on dating apps, but I shoot way out of my league in person at a bar because
Okay.
I feel like I'm king of the world because, I've had 12 drinks or something and nothing can defeat me then. But it is, I think people in general are attracted to confidence. I,
Yeah,
as long as it's not too much.
I agree. I think there is a very, very fine line between confidence and just being arrogant. Like
Yes.
I think there's three levels. I think it can be, first there's like there's healthy confidence. There's overly confidence, little overly confident, then there's cocky.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the third level is just arrogant. And the fourth, you're a complete asshole.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like, as long as we keep it in like a healthier levels, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
well, I think that's it. I think the level where you're very confident, but you'll also make fun of yourself is kind of that
yes.
perfect. Like I'm confident enough, I can make fun of myself, and that's why people love stand-up comedy. I mean, the best stand-up comics aren't bragging about how great they are; they're making fun of how bad they are. Do you see that bubble that just popped up on the screen? By the way,
The bubble?
okay, never mind. On my Zoom screen, there's little bubbles that sometimes pop up, and I've never asked anyone if they see them.
Ooh, I miss. Yeah, no, I think that's healing
All
now.
right, I might just be imagining it. There's like
Now
little
I'm looking
bubbles
for
with like a
bubbles.
thumbs up, and I'm like, "What? Did you press your hand? I can see your hands. You didn't do anything to do that." I've never asked that because I thought it must be something you can do, and I've just been like, "Oh, okay, they're cool." But I saw both of your hands when
Right.
that happened, and literally little bubbles popped up with a thumbs up, and I'm like, well, she can telepathically have done that. Sorry. See, this
No, I
is
think it's healing.
this this is what I warned you about when we talked. I'm like, I go all over the road. I'm a great driver, but not when it comes to podcast hosting.
Yeah, no, well, now I'm missing out. I want my bubbles too.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have
I
to
have
go
fun.
back. I'm gonna write down right here. I'm gonna go back and look at the video and see if it popped up like on the screen. I know I'm not imagining because I've seen it a bunch. Now I just sound like a crazy person. And I swear this is my first drink. It's I'm not hallucinating.
Oh, well, the night is young.
Yeah. No, the first of many. But I didn't start until 4 o'clock, so I feel like that's okay.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's not unhealthy. Now speaking of entrepreneurship, since I completely derailed the conversation, um, you have another venture as well that you are undergoing, correct?
I do. I recently invested in a protein bar. It's called Model Munch. I've God, this was a journey. And it took my blood, sweat, tears, sleepless nights. So I started a business with a friend way, way back long in the day. And we've had so many differences and opinions. This was originally granola company. I'm a natural baker. I cook. I make my own. I make my own products in the kitchen. And she loved anything that I've made, and she was so excited about it. And she was like, "Oh, we should make a business." Worst idea ever. The worst idea we've ever had. For anyone out there starting a business with a friend.
Mm.
Um, so we ended up having so many differences. I just ended up fully buying her out, taking over her shares. I mean, it sounds so fancy, but we absolutely didn't have anything. We were on two completely different pages. So whatever was her initial investment, I bought it out, I took it over, and I fully rebranded it. I built it into protein bars. I've changed the name, which is Model Munch. And it is my recipe. It is my formula. They are manufactured and produced in California. And I'm so, so excited for you guys to try it. Jeff, I have to send you a pack. It is
Yeah.
amazing. We just launched on Amazon. We're on Walmart. We launched less than a month ago, and it's my pride and joy.
Nice. And it's
Yes. I got you.
yeah, so it's are there different flavors to it? You made it, it's your recipe, right? So
It is my recipe. So I made it in my kitchen. It took me over a year to find the right formula. Obviously, then another year and a half with manufacturer and co-packer to make it commercially friendly while still staying up to my standards, keeping the health aspect, keeping the organic attributes, keeping the natural ingredients and flavors. So it's been such a long process. And for now, we just have one flavor. We are in R&D for a second one. But this project is such close to my heart. And the reason is that me being in this industry for 10 years now of being in fashion and models, and obviously now the times are changing and it is different. It is a little bit maybe more friendly, more inclusive. But what I've seen, like when I was younger, I've been put on crazy diets by agents. I've seen like models had like I'm not gonna speak for everyone. It's such a fucked up relationship with food. Such like a love, hate, anxiety, inducing relationship to food overall. And I was one of them. And part of it, I was always preferred to cook for myself and kind of monitor my own diet because I could never really go hungry. I would be miserable. That is why I've just, this is exactly the product that I was always looking for. The difference about it is, for example, it is a protein bar, but what I've noticed, like majority of protein bars are always dessert flavored. And if I want to go and have a snack and I gravitate towards healthy food, I don't want to feel like I'm having a chocolate bar at all times. Like if I'm hungry, it just like sometimes it doesn't agree with me and it like makes me crash. And no, I just prefer to fully rip it apart, build my own thing. And now I can share it with the world. And it had an incredible response so far. It's such a new company. We're as new as it can get. We didn't even get to the advertising part. My team is just, I have first 2 members of my team. So it's still me technically, but as of a couple days ago, I have 2 new members to my team, and we haven't even got to the advertising part. Everything is word of mouth, and so far it's going great. I couldn't be awesome. More great.
Well, congratulations. What is the flavor?
It's strawberry coconut, my first one.
Okay, that's good. I actually, that is I'll tell you, my distaste with protein bars is it's not that I don't like chocolate. It's that it's kind of, that's not the flavor I want I don't know. There's a time and a place for chocolate for me. I'm
the same way. I'm such a chocolate lover, but to me is a treat. So I like, when it comes to like associating with a healthy food, it's something chocolate covered or just chocolate flavored. I feel like I'm having a dessert. And I'm having a very hard time computing it in my head that are like, oh, this is supposed to be healthy, and a hard time believing it to an extent.
Yeah. And it's interesting how, there's so many questions racing through my mind because that is always something I think with models, and actresses, the same, the ones who, and again, like you said, it's a more inclusive of different body types currently.
Now it is.
Yeah, now, yeah, and we'll see how long that lasts too. To be honest, that's something I'm concerned about, but I don't understand how. I mean, I'd be in great shape if I cut out the booze, but that's what I tell myself. But keeping again, men have it a little easier where maybe not models, but
yes, because dad bods are hot.
Right, guys can fluctuate. Like you can be a Hollywood star I mean, John Hamm is a super attractive man. His body is okay. I mean, it's just a body. Like it's a normal, like show me an average male. I guess technically he's way thinner than the average male, but you know what I mean. He's not like
Yeah.
bulging biceps. He's not chiseled abs. But females, again, especially not that long ago, had to be perfect figures. And I, as thinking of the right words to say here, not to, as much as I enjoy the aesthetic, you don't want to think about, is she just naturally that perfect? Or is she doing something bad? Not bad, harmful
Oh.
to herself or.
So, um, wow, how to say this so I don't get like a bunch of emails after that. There was such a shame around it, and we were like, so many times we've been told like, oh, how did you discover it? Or like in a mall, in a street, I was like, oh, what do you do to like stay in shape? I was like, oh, it just happens naturally. I eat what I want. From what I saw, from friends living in the model apartments and traveling, it's jack shit.
Yeah,
It's
I believe
such horseshit. I've seen horrific things like girls like having like back in the day, like I've had like a known a girl and she was my friend and she would be like eating cotton balls to
Oh,
like to stay full. Yeah,
yes.
cotton balls like dipped in lemon juice. I've like the water diets and whatnot. I've tried water diet. It's just like you're drinking as much water as you can, as you want,
Oof.
as you possibly humanly can, just to like keep yourself full. Oh my God, it was horrific. I could not go anywhere. I had no time for anything because I spent most of my time just looking for a place to piss.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I've just decided once I like grew into like my mid-20s, I'm still in my 20s, but once I like hit my mid-20s, I just said, oh fuck it. Like I don't want to play in this, like it's like such a red race. And I think like once you get into the mentality, like being skinny is like it's just like being rich. It's never enough. Like you can
Mm.
never be skinny enough. And like you get this distorted self-image of yourself. And it's just horrible. Like it's just horrible race that never stops. So and models who have been blamed for a lot of it throughout models have been blamed for a lot of it of projecting this image and whatnot. So I've launched a product. Technically, this product is from the devils themselves because I know what works for me and I know what has made me satisfied. I'm still feeling full. I'm still having something sweet. Yeah. And this is not a meal replacement. This is a snack when I'm on a go, when I get hungry, when I have a craving.
Well, that I'm in a weight loss competition for the first quarter of this year, so that's right up
Ooh,
my alley because
all right.
finding healthy snacks. Or I'm on the I eat a breakfast and a dinner, but the middle of the day, a snack would be good.
I'm actually the same way. So I normally don't have a lot of time for lunch.
Yeah.
So I have like a small snack in the middle of my day and then I have early dinners. But if I have a full meal for lunch, I find myself so tired. Like I get into a little bit of food coma if I have like my lunch is too big. But then I have very big dinners.
Yes. Well, that's my. I mean, I'm a large human, but I was, and I've come to realize over the past handful of years, even though I still do horrible things like eat fast food. But
Oh, I do too, once in a while.
yeah, I do it.
Teach
I do it
yourself.
way too much. But I love cooking for myself, and when I have my kids, I love cooking for us. And I've realized in counting calories, I'm like, I just made a meal that's better than a restaurant meal for by the way, way cheaper. But also, you see the calories on the menu, and it's like,
Yes.
whoa, that was 1,900 calories for that pasta dish. It's like mine was like 1,100. And
Yeah.
by the way,
It's
if you're only eating breakfast and dinner and you're 6'2", 1,100 calories for a meal is not that bad. Like,
It's not.
so
I just want to say for anyone that's listening right now and doesn't have the video, it is not me panting. I have my dog on my lap. It is not me that is out of breath.
it's actually
I'm gonna sound so. I'm like, yeah, I'm so healthy. Like in the meantime, yes, I'm an absolute heavy smoker. No, I'm kidding. As I do have my dog on my lap just because he tends to bark. I want to.
he seems well behaved, but he is on your lap. So I mean, that's.
I'm gonna put him away. The microphone is catching it.
I caught it once or twice. I just thought I was really entertaining you, and you couldn't keep your breath. um, for my audio listener, she was just out of breath because my statement was so fascinating. But it is funny. You mentioned that a lot of the blame goes to the models. And I think a lot of times, because I just pretty recently got into acting, and I've even started to realize with that, like my first movie, people who have seen it, and it's just now about to come out. By the time this comes out,
tell me.
It's not the most flattering movie to me, but it's called Women Want Everything. It should be out on Prime any day now. But and it's a comedy, so I do some silly things. But the funny thing is, a lot of the feedback I'm getting now, I just acted in this movie. I didn't direct it, I didn't write it. I just read the words and acted the best I could. And I have people like, the sound of the sound in this one's. I'm like, do you think I had any control over that? Leave me alone. What is wrong with you? Like, I acted. Do you not understand my? And so my thing is kind of the same. It's like, why are you blaming the face, the model, or the actor for any, like, if it wasn't you, they would have gotten another person who had a very similar body to yours.
Yeah.
What difference,
And like, it's such a vicious circle because we listen to like what sells, like, oh, you're gonna work more when you do this. We're just like, just as any industry, like we're trying to feed ourselves. Oh, that would be such a hilarious joke. I just heard it. Well,
yeah. Yeah. Why do you think we're working? We're starving.
We're trying to survive, okay?
We just busted the model industry wide open. They're all skinny because they're literally starving.
No, but we are just trying to survive as in everyone else. And
yeah,
it goes back to what the market wants. And we have to adjust to the market. So it's not like, oh, like you're gonna, like, we lived of like we had to like fall into certain measurements and a hip size and all of that. And it's just being like, it's very hard. It is very hard. But at the same time, like, I'm not the one to be here like, oh my God, it was so hard. Every industry and every job has its ups and downs.
absolutely.
Yeah. So it has its plus, it has its minus, but overall, I am so grateful, and I've had a time of my life. And I don't want to like point like to the bad things, because I would say that is about the 10% and the hardest things out of 90% of the opportunities of the door it opened for me. And only thanks to the fashion industry, I am where I am today. And I'm able to live in New York, and I was able to, like, modeling agency, they sponsored my visa. They like helped me get on my feet. And to this day, it's my day job. And industry has evolved, it's shifted. It's a lot more open-minded. The market trends have changed. And yeah, overall, I feel bad I've started with a negative, because I watch myself not to do it. But I think it gifted me a lot. It gifted me a lot, and it's been a journey, and it built my character.
Yeah, well, if you don't, in any line of work, if you don't have some rough patches or rough parts of the job,
Yeah,
you're not going to build any character. If everything's just easy, that's,
exactly.
where's
Exactly.
the fun if it's easy too, right?
Exactly. Especially if you fuck up the sound in your movie, just like you did.
You're right. I was so blown away when, like, I'm like, "Hey, are you kidding me? My face is on the movie poster." And the first thing you say to me is, the sound was a little tinny in this scene, and I'm like, what? It's like, oh yeah. I'm like, but I
It's
don't think people understand the people in front of the camera. Just generally, that's their job. The model that
yeah,
there's so many people on the other side of the camera, and there's generally one in acting. Well, I guess in modeling too, there could be maybe a few, but there are so
oh
many
yeah,
more people on
absolutely.
the other side.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's industry as any other.
Actually, I do want to ask you that, about that. So in acting, the hardest thing to get used to, you got the camera pointing at you. I'm looking at my screen instead of the camera, but you got the camera pointing at you. You're looking at your co-stars, and then you've got, 20, maybe more people behind cameras, behind lights, just around you. And in a comedy movie, but I'm doing stupid, silly things, and sometimes you'll see somebody in the background will catch it because they move, and I'm like hyper vigilant to that. And I can only imagine modeling, especially, just being by yourself. There's probably not just you and a camera. There's probably several people. How hard is it for you to block out? If, I, I don't know the way to have the whatever look you're going for. I'm going to look sexy and focus on. I guess you can at least stare at the camera for the most part, right? As opposed to in acting, you're never supposed to look directly at the camera.
Yeah, I think how hard is it to block out? I don't think it is at all. To me, like I think with acting, I also showed my first movie during November, December.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I shot an indie. I'm sorry, that's my dog. It's gonna be in so much trouble. Poker, stop it.
Can
Um,
barely hear
so it's not so when I shot my first movie, I saw it was I saw the differences between it. For example, when I come on set on modeling, nothing else exists for me. It's actually this is very funny because when I shoot a lingerie campaign, I am only focusing on the camera and nothing else exists for me. And
him.
the trick that has helped me a lot, I stare, I imagine, I look into a lens and I imagine there's like my favorite memory and favorite movie playing inside of the lens. And that's why
Wow.
I'm always able to keep my focus. Like my imagination goes wild and everything happens inside of the lens in my mind. And it's something that makes me so comfortable and nothing else exists for me. Also, with modeling, like if it's a picture, it's it's always like the comfort, like there's nothing like I can have a free movement no matter what because it's a picture. And the reality is the bad ones, they're gonna toss.
Right.
And yeah, there's like editing after it. If like my leg looks weird or something, they're gonna toss those pictures. So, but um one thing that always has to come across, it's like if you're comfortable and all that, then yeah, that always shows.
Right. It seems like a smart technique, but acting,
Oh,
totally different ball game, right?
wild, wild west. Um,
Did you have problems not staring at the camera?
no, actually, I did not. Um, I remember I've had one very, very difficult scene. I think what I've struggled most with acting, coming on a set, and like to me, it was bigger of a struggle not following the light. Because when I in modeling, like you always have to make like turn your face to the light and certain angles. I normally, if a light was there, the camera was here. Like I would be like, well, hey, I would be turned to the side, and I would be so used to it, like, oh, adjusting to the light now, and like being in a certain pose. Like I would not want to be, I was always aware of it, that I would not want to be like sitting in like unflattering pose. And I'm like, oh, I know my leg looks like shit, like when I'm like, okay, well, hello. I would have a conversation like this. They would have to be like, Michaela, just be normal.
That's not how humans sit.
But I'm like, okay, well, guys, like, can you move the lights? Because this is like giving me shadow here. I don't like that. But I think that lasted for about first 3 days. Then I've got like, okay, fine. Nothing else exists.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was the biggest difference for me.
Yeah, it is people. I was talking. My daughter does like stage plays for school and stuff, and she's like, I want to act, and I'm like, acting on camera is not the same. Like you can have a camera this close to your face, and you're just supposed to completely ignore it. You can have 12 people fighting in the background, the crew members bickering over something, and you just need to be locked into your scene and just. No, now you can mess up on film and they just say, let's do it again. And on stage, you can't really do that. So there are pluses and minuses to each, but I'm like, it is so unnatural to act because you're just in such. And again, I'm a big guy, so like I get in like tight, uncomfortable spaces, and I'm like, this is okay. I'm gonna look normal now.
I think I would struggle with a theater and live audience, because to me, like with like being in front of a camera for like almost 10 years, it gives me a sense of comfort.
Yeah.
Like knowing like I'm in a small space, but now it's a live audience. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to follow. And I'm like, I'm gonna get booed out, then I'm gonna say something back. I'm like, I don't know.
The worst. I don't know if you've ever done any acting without lines, just like background stuff where like you're part of the scene but you're not talking.
Oh yes.
That's the
Yeah.
worst because I'm just
First, when I
like,
came to New
just
York,
act natural, just act natural. And then I've come to realize the more you focus on acting natural, you just do the most weird, bizarre things that no human has ever done before.
yeah. Sometimes like sometimes the hardest thing is to sit still or like
Mm-hmm.
do nothing. I was like, okay. Because you never really think about, okay, what do I actually do? How do I sit normally? Normally I talk, I'm doing so many things, but now, yeah, so totally get it.
Yeah, yeah, it's the most unnatural. I had to do a scene where I was on a date at a cafe, and I wasn't talking, but the main lady was walking behind me, and I was supposed to be, laughing, and I'm just like, I don't. What are my hands? Why are my hands here?
Funny.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they should let you get drunk, and then I would be completely
Yeah.
natural, although maybe a little too loud.
You know what, like I always think about it like anything at like a bottom level, or at least from my perspective, anything in the bottom level, or when you're starting, the the more you get paid, the easier it gets, which it should be all the way around. I don't know if you agree. I think it
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
yeah, I think it should be the other way around, but sometimes like the entry level positions, and you have to figure out everything. You're either doing like so much manual labor, you even have like almost no responsibility, but it's just hard. Because I've been on those background sets. I was finishing my finishing my school still when I was in New York, and sometimes if I had a free day just to like make extra money while I studied, I would be on backgrounds on sets. And like I remember those 12-hour days where like you are on set for like 2 hours of it, but now you're sitting in this like massive warehouse looking thing with nothing else to do, and then you have to get up at 5 a.m. and you're ready to blow your brains out. at the end of the day. Yeah, I remember those days so very well.
Yeah, you've got to be very able to entertain yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sitting around. That's what a lot of people I shot a movie that should come out around Halloween, and it's a feature length film, and we shot it in 9 days start to finish. And a lot of people, I was telling them, like, I showed up there at 9 a.m. I usually left 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Like, they were long days. They're like, you were acting that whole time? I'm like, no, like maybe 30 minutes to an hour I was acting.
Right?
Like, other times I was just sitting around reading my script, just trying not to go crazy, trying to, just
Yeah.
staying focused, rehearsing with my people who also were waiting.
Yeah, I think like when I saw like really when I was doing the background just to like honestly get a free lunch, get a free lunch and like have a place to study. But it would be so dreadful getting there at like 5 a.m. and whatnot and doing nothing up until sometimes like 4 p.m., then being in a scene for 30 minutes. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm waiting. And then when I like 9 years later, when I get a lead in something, then I was like, oh, this is fun. They're asking me, what do I want to eat? And they're asking me if I'm cold. And I'm like, okay, now we're rehearsing. Now I'm like having readings every evening. I'm like, oh my God, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
My association with acting, when I'm like, oh my God, this was horrible. But now, like, yeah, when you get into, I guess the more you get paid, the more fun it gets.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is. And a lot of it, I think, is also the, I've, and full disclosure, I shouldn't even say this on the podcast, but I'm like working my way where I want a Jeff Macolino film in 2025. That's my goal to do one. And it's like, I've learned enough of like, this is the
Yay.
good, this is the bad. I want it all to be good for everyone. Like, the pay, we'll see what that is, but
Yeah.
but the experience, at least, whether you're a background actor or number one on the call sheet. And frankly, not to be a jerk, but I write everything where I'm the lead actor
Yeah. You
because
get it.
why not?
You go get them.
Well, I Sylvester Stallone, now, he's very short and very buff, and I'm very tall and doughy. But so we're not the same. But his thing. I watched his
Me too.
biography on Netflix.
Yes.
Yeah, and he said they didn't write. They only wrote small roles for me where I played this, that. So I had to write my own role, and he wrote Rocky for himself, and he refused
That's
to sell it.
incredible. I remember that.
So I'm not writing Rocky, and nor am I claiming to be Sylvester Stallone, but I'm like, I'm gonna write myself into, because I've been rejected without auditioning for roles because I'm too tall. I'm only 6'2", but
Oh
I've
my
actually
God.
been rejected. They're like, oh, we need someone under 6 foot.
Yes.
And it's like, but really, like, I can squat down a little bit. I can slouch.
Oh my God. That reminds me of a story. I have been cut out of a music video because I played lead, and this is incredibly famous singer. Everybody knows him, and I don't want to say it because I did get cut out. I don't want to call him out, but they like I showed up to the shoot and whatnot. Beautiful like mansion. I was supposed to be like the love interest. Now we are shooting, and then like I get into like makeup. I had my trailer, all of that. It was this massive production, and they wanted me. They just didn't. I guess they didn't check my stats or anything like that. It was just like, it's her. They get on a Zoom with me. I'm like, oh, you're perfect. And I show up to the shoot. They fly me down to Miami. I get on my trailer. Then the artist comes, and as we start shooting, like prepping, he's I come into the set, and they put me in heels, and they're like,
Those damn stilettos.
Yeah, and then I saw like all the people on the set going quiet, and I'm like, just see them something whispering, and then I'm like, Michaela, can you take your shoes off? Like, sure. I'm like, huh. Can you sit down for a second? Then they had the artist stand and was like, well, now you can't really move. That looks awkward. Huh. Maybe go behind the couch, like to the distance. I was like, well, this don't make sense. We've done this for like 5 hours up until they decided, okay, here's your check. We're very sorry. You have to recast you. But this was fun, guys. It's been a pleasure.
It sounds like one guy, a couple guys have been on movie sets with Tom Cruise. Tremendous actor, but they were my height and they were told, I'm sorry, we can't use you. Because if Tom Cruise doesn't have to move in the scene, he can stand on a box. But if he has to be moving, he's not being in a scene with a guy who's like over 5'9" because he'll look small.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, well, I mean, I get. I mean, it's movie magic. You gotta, and he's a great actor. It's just that's part of the. I joked at my movie premiere. I was talking to another film producer, and I'm like, I know I'm too fat, and I gotta lose some weight. And he's like, sure, you can lose weight though. Your problem is you're tall. You can't lose height. He's like,
now you're gonna make a movie with all the giraffes and antelopes and giants. I'm down. I'm here for it.
yeah, I want to make a movie where I'm the small guy.
Okay, I love that.
That's actually in my writing. A lot of the times, a lot of the things I'm like, well, I need to make a point of how big I am, I guess, because
Oh yeah, you
apparently
tell him.
I'm a monster. But I could just cast giants to play around me.
Amazing. I love that.
Yeah, that's an interesting. That'd be an interesting idea for a movie. Just like six men need to be at least 6'2", no shorter than that, because everyone needs to be bigger than me.
Oh, you know what? You should advertise that the female audience you get.
Yeah, well, I mean, women do like height, right? I mean, that's a thing.
Yeah,
That's
you're gonna get a female audience right there. It should be like every actor in this movie is above 6'2". Girls would just watch it. I'm like, ooh, let me look at that.
that's what when I remember talking to some ladies I worked with back in the day, and I'm like, dating apps suck, and they're like, well, the first thing on your dating app should be your height, and I'm like, I don't know if that says a lot about what you think about me, but
Oh no, it's pretty much your personality on dating apps.
I hate dating
I think
apps.
6'2" is considered a whole personality.
Well, yeah, right. Like,
Yeah.
I'm tall enough that short guys are physically intimidated by me. I'm tall enough that most girls can wear heels, and I'll still be taller. Most.
And this should be your bio.
Is that all I need?
Yeah, pretty much.
See, this is why I do better at bars. Even though, again, people are like, well, women at bars. I'm like, well, I go to bars. So
yeah,
what do you...
but if it doesn't work out, you get a drinking buddy.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tap into your unemployed dating coach, or for charitable date. You should call yourself a charitable dating coach, right? Was it unemployed? Is that the...
Yes. No, I joke about it. Oh, you just said, oh, charitable dating coach. Oh my God, can I take it on my taxes somehow? Gonna be expensive.
I think
that's for another day.
Yeah, like, the IRS cannot listen. This is privileged conversation. But no, yes, I think you probably could consider it charitable work.
Okay, yeah, I still don't have a client. But I have a lot of opinions. All right.
But no, so I'll tell. I've told this story in my podcast, so I'll embarrass myself in front of you. But a lot of times I meet these women when I don't know their level of intoxication, but I know my level of intoxication is very high.
Okay.
So much so that sometimes I don't remember meeting the person, but that's neither here nor there. Uh,
Okay.
but whatever happens that night,
A woman, a person, we don't judge. Whatever floats your boat.
well,
It's a new age.
to my knowledge, they're all women, but
Sorry, it was too easy.
but I did just leave the door open. Yes. uh, but a lot of there have been, I don't know, 5 times that the next day
Mm-hmm.
I took them out to dinner,
Mm-hmm.
and sober Jeff,
Ooh.
they didn't like as much as drunk Jeff.
Ooh.
And I have a few ideas as to my issue.
Okay.
One is that drunk Jeff is
Elaborate.
just better.
Well, stay toxic, you know?
I think that's probably the key. Is that because I've had friends be like, why you met her and picked her up drunk, and sometimes did more than just get her phone number, if you catch my drift. And then the next day I'm very awkward and uncomfortable because I'm completely sober and I'm almost a different person than she met and whatever. So I'm like, all right, well, she maybe liked that guy, and this is a completely different guy. So that's on me, but I insist on being sober on a official first date. And I think
Okay.
that's my mistake.
Okay, here's a suggestion I would say this would be my suggestion to avoid the first awkward, like first date, first dinner. If you meet at a bar, you're intoxicated, take her number. And before you go on the dinner or a date, call her. Try to talk to her on the phone. Like, see if there's a vibe, if there's a conversation, if you guys have something to talk about. Because if you don't, you can get explosive diarrhea before you go out to dinner, you can cancel if you have nothing to talk about.
Have you used that excuse before?
Not this particular one.
That is a great excuse, though, because it's a good way to just.
Yeah, and to make sure they'll never call you again.
Right.
No, I have. No, I have, because even sometimes if I was like, oh, I'm very sick, it's very not a pleasant look. Sometimes men still follow up like, oh, are you feeling okay? Let me know, where can we reschedule? And I'm like, no. So I have my own line that always works.
Oh, okay. Yeah, don't share it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hand out my cards because
No.
next time I use it, I don't know who's listening. Next time I'm gonna try to let someone down easy. They're gonna be like, a code your bullshit. I saw that.
You know why? You know why you can't? That's
Yeah.
smart that you didn't, because one of the recent times I met a girl, we fooled around, but not that much. And she's like, asked me, her friends kind of were like, let's go home. And she's like, ask me out to dinner tomorrow. I'm like, let's go to dinner tomorrow. So we're texting during the day, but apparently she knew who I was, and then she listened to my podcast, and so on our first date, she's sitting here asking me questions because she's Googled me.
Oh, I hate that.
So you're smart not to do that, because they could find this.
No, it's like I don't hide anything. I'm an open book, but it makes me feel like I've been on a first date. It was like, oh, so I read a recent article. And I'm like, oh, it makes me feel awkward. Like, okay, why
Yeah.
didn't you if you want to know something, just ask? Like, if it's like a first date, like I get it. I was like, oh, so I've seen your LinkedIn, and like there's like, yeah, I went through your Instagram is like, I guess that's normal. But like going on like Google
Sure.
page 3, if you pass the Google page 1, no, Nope.
I don't do
I don't
that
like
for
it.
podcast interviews, let alone
Right?
for dates. Well,
But
as
for podcast, it's different. But if it's like a first date, I'm like,
oh, I don't do it for podcasts either.
no.
I watched. I'm like, oh, she's got some interviews on YouTube, so sure.
Yeah, but
That's more
that's a
my
podcast. That's a different. But if it's like on a date and they start bringing out my articles, and I'm like, okay, so is this job interview? Are you like?
well,
It just makes it
and
awkward,
yeah, and I didn't get to Google you. or
right?
or I at least didn't Google you. I'm like, I don't even know your last name, so I couldn't Google so it's like okay, we're already on an unlevel playing field that you know this much about me and I know nothing
Right?
about you. So you're gonna have questions locked and loaded for me, and I'm gonna be like, so where'd you grow up?
Yeah, and it makes me feel like exactly. And then it's like, okay, that was like an elevator pitch on myself. Now, like I have to answer these things, and oh, why did I do this? It's like, oh, God. No, the best is like I think the best first date is like me personally. I never do dinners unless I already know you. Unless we've already met, maybe out in a while, then I know we had a vibe, and I know we've known each other, we've chatted before, then I have no issue. But if it's like a first day, if it's like a dating app or something, um, then like going to dinner, there's nothing worse than being stuck in a restaurant for 2 hours. And I was like, oh my God, now you can't leave. It's like it's so awkward. And then I'm like, oh, let's have a dessert. Yeah, it'll be the souffle, like it'll be the souffle. Another 30 minutes. Oh, let's have a drink. Oh my God, you shoot me. I've been in those situations and I feel horrible. So I'm like, I can't leave. Like, you seem nice. It's just you have
And,
a personality of a steamed broccoli, and it's not for me.
well, and the other thing, so I'm like, well, I'm never. I'm also always the guy like, do you want me to pick you up or do you want to meet at the restaurant? Because I'm like, please say meet at the restaurant because then I can drink. They're always like, oh, you can pick me up. I'm like, no, no, no.
But you know
I
what?
don't want to drive.
That means so much to me because one of my pet peeves, and it's amazing that you asked, because it's like okay, one of my biggest no-nos that gives me the icks when a guy like takes me out as like a first or second date and he picks a restaurant, beautiful, but then he sends me Google Maps to it. I was like, oh, see you there. Here's the pin. And I'm like, the fuck am I, Dora the fucking Explorer? I'm sorry.
Find your way there. Find your way there.
Find your way there. Here's the treasure map. And I'm like, what is the end of it? Is the
See, I asked that question because I'm like, I'm a gentleman. I will come pick you up and drive you.
and that is so appreciated. I don't think you need a coach because that is the first thing that girls appreciate either when you pick them up, but sometimes they don't want to give you their home address if it's a dating app date, which I fully understand.
Yeah.
So the best way is to just ask.
Yeah. Well, I do that because and literally zero of them have said let's meet there. They've all been like, "Oh yeah, you come pick me up." And I'm like, "No, I don't drive drunk, so I can't drink more than a few beers during the gosh." And I'm a whiskey drinker, so beers just are basically like drinking water for me. Depending on what I did the night before, beers actually might sober me up. Um Michaela, I feel like I could talk to you for hours, but I realize also we've talked for about an hour, so I'm not going to hold you hostage any longer, or I'd feel.
Oh, this was so much fun. Wow, I feel like I overshared on some topics, and I normally don't curse, but Google Maps always get me when I get them from a man with a pen.
Oh no, I get it. I get it. I've been there in other situations, not like dates, but other situations where like, you want to go to this party? Show up here, and I'm like, oh, I thought you were like picking me. I thought you were just scooping me up. I thought that was part of like, hey, I'm headed to this party. You want to come? Sure. All right, get here. I'm like, but I thought that was in like a ride pickup. Like now I need to get my own Uber.
No, I don't mind it as much from friends. Like, I fully understand it. This is New York. It's just, anyway.
Oh
Whole
yeah,
another.
New York's a whole separate thing. Michaela, before I let you go, tell my audience, and everything will be in the show notes, of course. But tell my audience where they can find you, where they can find Model Munch, Michaela V shoes. Although I have a mostly male audience, but they can buy their shoes for their ladies, and the
Obviously.
stilettos
And that is
will
the
make them
greenest flag.
frisky.
Yeah, women love shoes. There's nothing sexier when a man buys his lady perfect pair of boots. I'm not kidding. It always makes me happy. It's the sexiest thing in the world. But yeah, my website is michaelav.com. Model Munch is modelmunch.com, and my personal Instagram is Michaela V.
Excellent.
I'm so excited to get the feedback, to talk to you, and to get genuine feedback. If it's just me with a Google Maps thing, or if it's for other women, I'm curious about that.
No, well, maybe I'm a great gentleman, and that just makes me actually feel like, oh, I'm so much worse as a dater. Like I'm a gentleman that will pick them up and still disappoint.
That is
On the
not true.
on the
That
date.
is such a green point.
Well, Michaela, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it, and yeah, I look forward to seeing your movie and anything else, and tasting Model Munch. That sounded
Thank you.
yeah. I might cut that. That sounded wrong.
No, you gotta munch it.
Gotta. There we go.
That's how you become a better dater. I'm just saying.
That. There we go. We've solved it. Charity donation. Boom. You've done it. Thank you, Michaela.
Thank you. Have a lovely day.
That's it. That's all. Hope you had a ball. Thank you, Michaela Vybohova, for joining me on the podcast. Had a great time, even though I swallowed my tongue a few times. But what are you gonna do? It's like an episode of Beauty and the Beast, just without the romantic ending. But there was a lot of laughter there. It's a more realistic version, and I didn't hold her prisoner. She came on willingly. So there's that, I suppose. I don't know how I started talking about Stockholm Syndrome, but here we are. Anyways, please subscribe. I usually only do the audio version. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like, comment. You can't really do that with the audio version as much. So do me the favor of subscribing, and check out the audio version of the podcast as well, so you don't have to look at me the whole time during the episode. It's probably a bonus. I might end up editing the video to put things in front of my face on occasion, even in this episode. Anyways, my sign off. Boom. It's over. Thanks for listening.
It was amazing. I loved it.
Be sure to come back for another great episode
I'm one wing away from Jeff Macolino.
of the Jeff Macolino Podcast.
How much time did you spend on thinking of the name of your podcast? You went just straight, that's my name, I'll add the word podcast to it.
Yup. See you next week.